Hey guys, happy Saturday evening. Very late start. I don't even know what time it is. I feel like it's close to 3. So just catching up. I haven't done nothing this week. I went and got that car, kind of messed up my arm. So I'm just letting it heal because, you know, when you get old, no sense in pushing it. All right, so I've got my fuel pump, thermostat gaskets, new 180-degree thermostat. I'm going to go find me a thermostat housing. I'm sure I've got a few laying around here somewhere. Get this intake glued down. I mean, I have absolutely achieved nothing this past week at all. And I won't even probably get to hear this thing run until tomorrow evening once the RTV sets up good and, you know, once everything sets up real good. But I'm going to go ahead and get this intake put on, thermostat and everything. I'm going to get it torqued down. I am going to put my new fuel pump on here. And we're going to see... I don't know, you know, I'm just going to see what this thing quit pumping fuel. Let me get started. Hopefully, we get somewhere with this car. I was supposed to went to a car show today. Obviously, this car wasn't going to make it. It got rained out. They're going to postpone it, reschedule it, whatever. And they told me it's going to be September. I was like, I'll surely make that. But that's, you know, I also said I was going to make the June 3rd race. There's no way that's going to happen at this point. I just kind of started messing with my fuel line. I'm going to go ahead and put the new pump on here. Trying to fish out my fuel line. Get my fuel filter situation redone. Make sure she's pumping fuel. And get the timing set on it. And roll. Get it running again. And once we get it running, I take it down the road and I come back up. I'm not going to do no draggy with it. But once I realize that it's going and it ain't dying, it ain't, you know, choking out, we're coming back in here, we're getting on the jack stands. So, more than likely, drive shaft's coming out, transmission's coming out. It's time. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull the rear end out. I might do the frame ties tonight as far as getting them prepped, and I'll show you what I do with that. That'll be a separate video because I was going to do a separate video completely on the subframe connectors because it's actually kind of in depth if you want to prep them good. I mean, obviously you can just buy them and stick them on there, weld them on there and say I've got subframe connectors, but I definitely recommend taking some time with them if you want them to last because they will rot from the inside out in a short amount of time. And once you put these on here, they're kind of permanent. You know, just it's not like you're just going to take them off and put another set on. You can, but it's a lengthy process. Let me get started. I'll get back with you. All right, guys. I've got this double flare machine, and I don't know if you've never used one. This isn't exactly like one you buy on the at the parts house, but it's a nice flaring tool. It really don't cost that much, and for the amount of aggravation that you save, I definitely recommend it, so I'm going to video me using this thing. All right, that's about as good as I can get that thing. I've got a mess over here. All right, so basically, this is your vise blocks. This is a 3/8 line. I'm going to put this in here. It goes flush with the end of this. And it goes in here like this. Actually, you can set that in there first. That's the way to do it. Just set it in there first. I don't know. I don't use this thing that much. So, all right, you push that pin through right here. And I'm going to wiggle my line out till it's right at flush with the edge of that. I'm going to tighten him down. Now, take my handle, stick in here. Now this is the first step of the double flare, but it's, I guess they call it a bubble flare. I am not going any farther than this because I didn't have it tight enough. I seen it push the line back. All right. I mean, you really got to crank down on this thing. All right, now, there it goes. You see there, and it puts that bubble flare on it. Looks nice. And then you just turn this around like I can't remember, like that, and then it punches that in and flattens that in right there. I'll do a double flare later, but I'm telling you, this is called it's not an expensive one. 4 lifetime lines. That's what I got in it. Like I said, I think it's made in, oh, it's made in US. No, it says made in Taiwan. I don't remember how much it was. It might have been $100. And it comes with 4 different dies, vice dies, blocks, whatever you want to call them. And, but I'm going to tell you, it is a lifesaver. Lifesaver. You can't do the lines, obviously, while they're on the car. I've seen some that you can do, smaller ones for brake lines. And I am definitely going to get on that program. I want to buy one of those because, well, I don't need to on this because I got brand new stainless lines to go from the back to the front. But I'll eventually do it, need it somewhere. So that's how that tool works. As you can see, I'm pre-fitting this. The intake isn't bolted down. There is a gasket over there though, so it kind of simulates where it needs to be. So I pre-cut my hose, put it on there. This is why I pre-do everything, because the fuel line actually turned out really nice, but it's up. See right there? It's going up. I've got my rubber line too short. These are, I mean, guys, this is exactly why we pre-fit everything before we put it together. So I moved my fuel filter down there. I've got no bends in the fuel lines, the rubber fuel lines, and that was the goal. Perfect. I just need to cut me another piece of fuel line for the back, and then I'm gonna pull everything off and we're gonna stick this intake down. All right, I'm gonna show you a little tip here. I have seen numerous posts about thermostat housings leaking and that you should use the factory Ford one. And I am using a factory Ford one, but let me show you something. This might be part of the problem. All right, now, you see this? If you were taking your thermostat and sticking it in this housing and then bolting your housing on, you're probably not doing it right. Or if you are, hopefully you're paying attention. This port has to go straight up. Now, if you look at this, you see how it's got that notch in it? If you look at that thermostat housing, it has a relief in there for that. Stick this in your thermostat housing, and I recommend going to O'Reilly's and getting this gasket that has the sticky back on it. You can stick that right on that thermostat housing. It'll hold that thermostat in place, and then you can bolt it right on there. Now I'm gonna put a little, if you'll notice, I run a file over this to try to find the low spots and the warp spots. And I did the exact same thing here. And I used a true brand new file just to find out where the warp spots were at, just so I could you know, get an idea. And this actually looks really good. This will seal up fine. I am gonna put a little bit of a thin layer of Permatex around this. Fasten her up. All right, sorry for the blur early. Now you see I got that gasket on there? It won't move. And you just stick it right on there. I know the blues don't match. I am gonna repaint this intake. I'm not gonna repaint this intake this round. If this intake seems to work pretty decent on this, we see a pretty good improvement, I am gonna port this intake. And then after I get done porting it, I am gonna paint it. But see, I'm not taking this thermostat housing back off. It'll stay on there. As you can see, I'll leave my thermostat housings on the intakes, and you know, they all got new 180-degree thermostats in them. I just leave them like that because you never know if you want to grab it, and who wants to run down a thermostat housing, you know? That's what I spent 20 minutes doing, finding that, and cleaned it up real good, sandblasted it. I'm just gonna paint this one blue with the intake. All right, we're gonna call it for Saturday. I've got it torqued down to 20 foot-pounds. I'm gonna let it sit overnight, and I'm gonna retorque it again. I have a feeling it's gonna leak, and I'll tell you why. I put Permatex around the water jackets, whatever you want to call them, water passages on the intake gaskets on the head side. And I just got so ambitious, I threw that intake on there, and I did not do it on the intake side. Now, this intake actually looks pretty square. I believe it's only been installed one time since it was new, because it actually has a very nice surface on it. I might be okay, but like I said, I'm gonna retorque it in the morning. I might bump it up to about 22 foot-pounds. I'm using grade 8 bolts for intake bolts, so they shouldn't snap. I mean, a 5/16 bolt, it ought to handle, you know, quite a bit. But anyway, but I messed up. I wasn't paying attention. Let me show what happened. So I did actually end up painting it. So I've got this drilling tap for my, you know, whatever, my heater core passage. And then I seen this, I said, man, I need to put a plug on that. Well, then I started realizing, no, that's for the temperature. That's what it's for. So I am going to drill that out and tap it for a 3/8 pipe plug after I have glued this intake down. Now what I'm going to do is, I've got a pretty decent vacuum cleaner, but I'm going to plug this hole up, and I'm gonna be having that vacuum cleaner in this port the whole time I'm drilling that thing. I'll have the, you know, I'm gonna have everything covered up, and I'll get it all vacuumed out, and then I'll chase it with the pipe thread tap. And if you'll dip a thread tap in, like say bearing grease, it'll pull the shavings out with it. It just collects it and it doesn't let it fall. Pretty neat trick I learned when I worked at Pre-Stress. So other than that, yep, just gonna retorque it in the morning, and like I said, drill that out, thread that, get my water temperature sensor hooked up, get my heater core passages hooked up, get my distributor drop down in there. I mean, she might run tomorrow, I don't know, but I wanted to get that intake on there tonight, so I knew that RTV would set up overnight. I mean, it's warm enough now, it should, you know, set up quicker than what it has been. So we'll see you in the morning. All right, took an interesting approach. Had to drill this out. Just zip tie that to the fuel line. Very, very few shavings down there. So I'm just gonna pop this off, finish sucking it out. Not many shavings at all. That worked out pretty good. All right, so I've got the shavings cleaned out of it. Show you a little trick here. Take your tap, stick it down in some grease, like that. Then get it started, and as you tighten it, that grease is going to collect all those metal shavings. When you screw it back out, it's going to stay in those grooves in those metal shavings. That's what I'm talking about right there. Let me try to get it. See how they're packed full? while your shavings stay in the grease. Alright guys, girls, wrapping up my Sunday. I'm close, but I'm tired. Got a lot done. Intake's on, fuel line's bent. I still need to get the distributor set properly. You know, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it seems to be a big deal. I end up having to go with an aftermarket throttle cable holder and blah, blah, blah. I did buy one for the Victor Jr. lookalike. I'm glad I bought it because I had to use it on this accelerator. I had 2 bolts except a throttle bracket, but it just wasn't going to work with this application. Other than that, I'm pretty close. Water's in it. I had one leak. The water tube crossover was leaking, and if you look at my other video where I threaded the oh yeah, let me show you that. I am flat out enjoying this. So this right here, I had to drain a couple gallons of water out of it, re-thread that with the grease like you seen earlier. Well, I ended up having to put a plug in that, and you can obviously see why. This wasn't gonna let the distributor go in. So luckily I did drill it and thread it for a decent plug. So that's in there. And like I said, I just had to re-thread this one. And I did it the same way I did that with the grease, and it just went so much easier. But other than that, I did find a problem, another problem. Car didn't seem to want to fire right. If you'll notice, I now put these on here because the plug, the yellow wire, which would be the, I guess the negative wire on the coil, was barely making contact. It had pushed the pin back out instead of going in, and the pins were messed up on it. So, I don't know, it's just Chinese junk. I was giving it the benefit of the doubt though. I'm gonna try it one more time. But like I said, I do have a brand new DuraSpark, brand new everything. I mean, it's starting to clean up. It's starting to look pretty good. I just want it to run, you know. I'm ready for this thing to run. So, but that's it for Sunday. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Always be safe. Catch my video on the tractor. I did that today. If you're interested in stuff, if you got a Kubota tractor, you should watch that. I think that took care of it. But anyway, have a good weekend, and we'll see you next weekend. And you know, I may try to do a few things. I see some issues where I don't have tailpipes on this, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to get the tailpipes on it. The issue with that's the gas line coming off the left side of the tank. Now I've heard of people putting these later model gas tanks in these. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but I'm going to, if they'll work, I'm going to put the later model gas tank in this, and I've got one laying out there, so I can test fit it. I guess 2 or 3 more gallons anyway, because like I said, I do want to drive the car. And with the cam and the gears and everything, I need all the gas I can put in this thing. So that's where we're at with it. Unfortunately, it's another weekend. It ain't running, but it's so close. I just decided to take my time with it and try not to overlook anything. I've taken a lot of extra steps, and you know, luckily, you know, I was afraid my intake would leak. It isn't leaking. Of course, it ain't had pressure built up on it yet. Fingers crossed on that one. Now, if that doesn't leak, and I can get this thing firing and running on its own accord, that'd be great. See you next weekend.